Meeting.
Brevity is a virtue, I think.
You're live.
Oh. Okay.
Stan, I'm gonna try real hard one more time this coming week to get you some Spanish mackerel.
Okay, it's early. I appreciate that. Good evening and welcome to the Summers County Board of Education regular meeting. This is July the 8th, 2021, and the time is 6 p.m. The chair calls this meeting to order. Item 1, roll call. Let the minutes reflect that present in the building, there are 3 members. The chair, obviously, Vice President Farley, Mr. McBride, and joining us by phone, the other 2 members, Mr. Angel and Mr. Brogan. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Brogan to lead us in invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we just want to thank you for giving us another beautiful day. Lord, we thank you for the rain that we've received the last couple of days. It's definitely been needed. We're thankful for that. Father, we just want to thank you for each of the dedicated members of the Summers County school system from one side to the other. Takes each one to make a team, and we're thankful for each one. We just pray that you'd be with us tonight as we go through this agenda. May we give each bullet the proper attention and make the correct decisions that will be for the betterment of Summers County schools. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the
republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, approval of agenda and adjustments. The chair moves that we strike from this agenda under personnel item 14, that we strike at this time consideration for the computer science camp instructor, those first 2 blocks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Vice President Farley. This board strike under personnel items number 14, the first 2 blocks under computer science camp instructor. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have 2 ayes on the record? Okay. By a vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, this board is approved striking of those 2 items. Do any other members have any items or adjustments that you'd like to see made to this agenda?
I just had a question about the 113C approved policies.
Yes, those 2 are to be adopted. We'll have a discussion on those.
Okay, because I thought they were going to be remaining on review. I thought Trey was going to work on those.
He did after the last one. And
He changed the verbiage to what we all talked about from the comments and from what you guys discussed. Yep.
all right, and we'll discuss that when it comes to those items.
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns regarding the agenda by any member? If not, the chair moves that this board approve the agenda as presented to us by the superintendent, subject to the strike of the 2 items on a previous amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second on Mr. McBride. Motion on the floor of the chair, second Mr. McBride, that this board approve the agenda subject to the adjustments that were previously passed. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Mr. Angel, Mr. Brogan, did you all vote in the affirmative?
Yes.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Maybe you yell at me some more. I'm used to being yelled at, so just yell at me a little louder, okay?
Closer to you.
Okay, could you hear it, Ms. Crook?
I can barely hear.
Barely hear it,
I
okay.
can't differentiate between the two of them.
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay. 5 votes in the affirmative, this agenda has been approved. Do we have any green forms for public comment?
No, nobody wants to comment.
I believe do we have any public comment presentations?
Yeah, central office will go second. We're gonna let a couple ladies here go first and talk to you about summer school and STEM and anything else they have on their mind that they want to discuss that's going on this summer. So we'll have Ms. Schaefer kick it off, I believe, and then Ms. Martin finish it up, or?
We're doing tag team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How
we do
about
every
I
day.
step out of the way and let them know?
All right, our summer camp, STEM camp began June 14th, and we wrap up tomorrow. Will be our final day. Can you?
She did.
Oh, go ahead.
Throughout, was it March and April? March and April, we had several STEM PDs through the June Harless Center. They included the Project Wet and Wild, the Project Learning Tree. They did some fall science training, the Rockin' Box, Sphero, Little Bits, Vex, Fruitvale, Whose DNA Is It Anyway, Sherlock Bones, Children's Innovation and Beautiful Stuff. And they were able to take, if they were in attendance, they were able to take this information and apply it to these 4 weeks that we've had over the summer.
And this training was open to all the staff in Summers County, including our aides that work in the classrooms, and we also opened it up to our Concord students to give them opportunities to come and meet the staff and what we do here in Summers County to help with our recruiting new teachers coming up as we're looking for new teachers each year. And we did have some that participate.
Out of the 24 teachers and staff that we have for the summer camp, 19 of those attended at least one of our PD sessions through the June Harless Center.
And our students, our attendance for STEM camp, our first band of students was grades K1. We had 13 students register, and 9 students of that 13 attended 3 days or more. In grades 2-3, we had 30 students register for the camp, and 18 of those attended 3 days or more. In grades 4-5, 30 students registered, and we've had 16 of those 30 attend 3 days or more. In grades 6-7, 16 students registered, and 8 students attended 3 or more days. And in grades 8 and 9, 7 students registered, and 4 of those students have attended 3 days or more.
We were able to partner with the 4-H Extension Office, and they worked with K-5 students every day. They were mostly in the morning, but they did different projects, and you can see in the one picture, they provided all of them with fitness trackers, and they tracked their steps at the end of every day.
They also partnered with Reach, and they were very entertaining to our kids, and the kids have really enjoyed it, and different projects.
Coach Starliper was very involved during the June Harless, so he agreed to do a PE with all of our classes. So he's with each class for 45 minutes every day. They go outside and do different things, kickball, baseball, different things, and then they also are in the gym some with basketball and different activities to get them up and moving throughout the day.
Week 1, our theme was moving mountains, and week 1 we were camping in the mountains and in the forest, and these are some projects where they were building different trees. They made solar s'mores oven. They were building, these were marble runs, and they were building mountains. They had to have at least 4-point turns on a marble run down the mountain. These were lightning bugs that the K1 had made. And we had a little area set up, a little camping area for each week, so you'll see one of those. Here they were building clay models of the mountains. They built a plane, and this one was a bridge. that they built for when we were camping in the mountains during week 1.
Week 2, we traveled to the Arctic. You can see on the very first picture, they had a big Titanic that they built on the wall. And then you can see our little setup that we did. They did water traveling through the towels. They built an igloo using apples, marshmallows, and peanut butter. Then they also used the Rockin' Box to create different ships and how they would avoid hitting the Titanic. So they had some very creative ideas. They did snowball catapults, some more igloos, and I'm not sure what.
They were building tents is what they were building for camping out of marshmallows and spaghetti.
Yeah.
Week 3, we were at the ocean, we were at the beach. Our K1, they built squid and jellyfish. They were talking about the different layers of the ocean and the animals that lived in the ocean. This right here was also an edible model of the layers of the ocean. They did oceans in a bottle. They built boats to see how many pennies they could hold. This was where they were building a life-size whale.
It was at least 100 feet long.
So it was, yeah, they got the length, but the pavement wasn't wide enough for it to build it tall, so it had to be, it was a little skinny there. But was true to size, and the kids had tape measures and they were measuring, so they were building one to scale. Then they were building some fish, and they ended up putting this part of their Titanic too. They were working on that when we were camping week 3 at the ocean.
And then this week, week 4, we are at the desert. Up in the top, they did another desert in a bottle. They were doing camel races, right, camel?
Mm-hmm.
With the Spiros. They built some jackrabbits, some different animals, 2 different types of igloos, cactuses. These were painting, and then they were actually using some clay and some pots. The high school STEM actually did some mummies that they created, and then you can see our desert scene that we've got right now.
And we had some awesome staff working this week, and you can see our staff and working with the kids, and you'll see a lot of smiles. Mm-hmm. It was a fun week for the kids, and it's also been a fun week for the staff. And one of the best comments that I heard from a staff member, she said, "This has been like a month-long professional development. I have learned so much working with other colleagues or working in groups of 3. She said, I've learned as much here working with the kids, and I can't wait to take that back to my classroom." So that's one of the best comments that I had heard.
How many Concord students did you get to apply for jobs here?
We hired 5, and that's the ones that applied. Was there others that applied? Do you remember?
We had several more interested, but we had 5 spots to fill.
So we're trying to groom some people through
And-
our summer program to get them in.
And I'm going to be honest, one of them has applied for, 2 of them have applied. One is a TIR and one just graduated and has applied for Summers County. So,
Very
and
good.
has fallen in love with it working here and decided to apply in Summers County.
Good deal.
Then, I'm sorry.
You're fine. And then, of course, we had our amazing kids. They've made these 4 weeks very enjoyable. Seeing them, hearing them laughing, especially the room right across from Ms. Schaefer and I, we hear them laughing all the time at the different things that they're doing. But they have, just had a ball, and that's made it so worth it, watching them enjoy it and learn and just have fun.
And I think we learned as much from them
We did.
as we have taught them. So it's been a truly pleasant experience working STEM camp.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to see it end.
Yeah.
And that's our presentation for STEM.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do y'all have any questions for them?
Any questions by any members or any staff or anybody?
I heard good things about it. I heard a lot of good things about the
I would
s'mores.
just
when-
like
when
to
Mama
throw
Lake-
out, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to throw out a quick thanks to the ladies and whoever else let my son work with me. and, he needed to do that for school, and I appreciate them allowing him to do that.
Our
Of
pleasure,
course.
thank you.
We enjoyed him.
We allowed his son to work with him? Oh, wow. Is he the one that's going into psychology or counseling?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Brogan, we were talking about your son going into counseling, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
We have a second presentation, Superintendent.
Yeah, I'll have, Mr., oh, he already pulled it up. Thank you, Mr. Lester. Last Monday, we, as a central office staff, had to go in front of the state officials. Clayton Birch and his team, some of his team was in and out, but basically, each county has to go there for an hour and a half. The 30 minutes that you talk to them is what you have ideas on how you're gonna spend the money that the federal government has pushed down to the schools. Having said that, the assurances that the federal government wants is from the State Department. So for here, we're called West Virginia Department of Ed. So our Department of Ed officials have to make assurances that we're gonna use our money in an efficient way possible that we know how. And we have to make sure that we present to you as a board. And then when we're done tonight, we have to make sure all parties that are involved in Summers County Schools, meaning anybody that lives in this county, can make comments on what we're doing with the money. That doesn't mean we take every comment and do everything, because there's only so much money. But this situation that we're gonna present to you tonight, we've already got comments back from the state, or from the State Department. Before we go in our presentation, it's basically what we did well and what we need to work on. So out of all the categories, there's 12 yeses and 12 nos. Yes, we're doing well. No, we didn't meet some things. So as we go through here, that's not bad, because you don't know what they're looking for, and you learn from other counties on what they're doing as well. So basically, in the spirit of this, it's hearing what everybody's doing to make our state better for our kids with all this money that's coming to us. Having said that, May 14th, we were told we can use this federal money for building projects like roofs and safe school entrances. A month later, we were told the federal government says, no, you cannot. So the reason why I'm telling you that is one day we think we're doing something, maybe a week or two or a month later, the federal government says, no, you cannot do something. So having said that, just kind of be fluid as we move forward. As of today, we can't use money to repair our roofs. But maybe 30 days, 60 days, 3 months from now, it could change. I'm just letting you know that it is constantly changing. But what I can tell you is this is our presentation, and we're gonna walk you through it. So we want to show them our area of where we work. And Ken, if you can move to the next slide. Basically, we have been collaborating with our community and our stakeholders. I'm not gonna read that all to you, because a lot of them you already know who we work with. But what we did add was like the county commissioners and the sheriff's department. Why? Because we're bringing in the SRO program. So we're hiring 2 officers, and Ms. Jones was part of the interview committee last week to bring in 2 new people into our schools. We also have Raynell Medical Center. That's a new stakeholder. Summers County Health Department, that's every day, and it's even more so because we're still in a pandemic and that has not gone away. But the others were obvious, but we still want people to know. We do work with families every day. We also work with our, forgot the acronym, for our steering committee and our price committee. So we do work with different committees out there to get feedback. We work with our principals and we work with our staff to get their point of view. Matter of fact, we asked our principals for a wish list for those principals to go back to their staffs to say, what is it that you would like to use these federal dollars for, since you have a wish list. Now, we said in that wish list to our principals, it doesn't mean it'll happen, but tell us what you would like, because guys, we're not gonna see this kind of money come to us like this ever again. I just don't see that happening. So what we've also done is feedback through the Board of Education. with your all's comments that we've talked about since we've been getting this money. And then now tonight, we're gonna have this be put out for everybody to see starting tomorrow. And we have a feedback link on our webpage for people to give us their feedback, and that'll be in this presentation as well. This presentation will be on our website for people to go flip through. So, Mr. Lester, this is our timeline tonight we're presenting to you. It will be on YouTube for people to pull this up and listen to again. We will have feedback from this point on tomorrow till the end of the month. And then we need to get board approval by the 22nd at the next board meeting for you to see what the comments were and to move forward with this money. Again, this money does have a lot of strings attached, and those change, it seems like, weekly. But at this point in time, this is our strategic plan as we move forward, and we also have a CEFP. Those two items are like a braid. We have 3 braids. The federal government has given us all this ESSERF money, that's what we're calling it now, COVID money, CARES Act money, whatever you want to call it. That's a braid. We also have state funding, and then we also have our plans of action, which are our strategic plan and our CFP. Think of that as 3 braids we're trying to make a tight rope with. Now, what we have tonight for you is what we presented to the state Board of Education's people, but also we also put in their comments in this plan because we have to also abide by the state and what they would like us to do with the federal government's money. But these are our 2 biggest things that we wanted to focus on, is the recovery of loss of education and then our facilities, how we can upgrade all of them. And this does not include school building authority money. So don't think about the $8.2 million adding on to the high school. That is separate from this PowerPoint, okay? You want me to talk about this, or do you want to go ahead?
Whatever you prefer.
I'm tired of hearing me. Go ahead.
Okay. As we got together, deciding how to spend the money, we looked at our needs assessment, and that's the first part of the strategic planning process for school districts. We looked at our ELA data and math data, and this is our PALS data. And we really concentrate hard with our PALS data on our kindergarten through 2nd grade, but our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we do offer that to students who are having difficulty with reading skills. As you can see, we have to own our data. Our ELA and math scores are low. We're going to take measures to better those scores for next year, as you can see in the future slides. We have some Alex math data. This is our math software that we use. It's adaptive to the students' needs. And you can see there from 3rd to 11th grade, we utilize Alex. And we have a beginning average for each grade and an ending average. And then to end, the percentage points gained. This school year was the first that we gave the PSAT to our 9th graders and to our 10th graders. We have the data there, and as you can see, we have a lot of work to do at both grade levels for ELA and math. We also wanted to look at other data, not only academic data, but we looked at our attendance data. And we looked at this percentage of students who are chronically absent. We looked at our 18-19 data and our 19-20 data. And then you look at it as a whole, but then you need to break out and look at your subgroup data, and we did that as well. Our discipline data is the percentage of students with no OSS, and that's out of school suspensions. And a level 3 and 4, if you get on those behavior levels, then we're required to give out of school suspension. So we did really, I think we did really well there. We have a high percentage in both of those school years of kids that did not get any out of school suspensions. Our strategies that we're going to use to continue these good averages would be our school-wide behavior incentives, our communities and schools, which is a new program, our PBIS, The Leader in Me, we have that at 2 elementary schools, and we've adopted the trauma-informed approach. Some of our subgroup scorecard data for ELA and math are economically disadvantaged. They increased their ELA proficiency by 50.56%. Our homeless increased by 1.74. Our students with disabilities decreased 3.82% in ELA proficiency. And then we have to figure out what is the root cause and what can we do to help these subgroups. Some strategies that we can use for our subgroups, as you can see, I'll read a few of those. We continue our efforts to find high-quality teachers and high-quality instruction in our classrooms, and we worked well with Concord. Dr. Kathy Hawks recommended some students, and we brought them in, so we are working on trying to get those teachers as soon as they graduate from the teaching programs. We're offering intensive intervention for our at-risk learners. We're going to continue our after-school tutoring. We have Title I teachers at our elementary schools that do small group intervention. We have SAT meetings, communities and schools, our school resource officer, and our graduation coach. Do you want to do this?
Sure. So they wanted to know what we provided in the past as options to help with our hurdles we faced this past year with COVID. We offered 3 options for students to fit the needs. In March, that went down to 2 options, the face-to-face, the blended remote and in-person, and the synchronous virtual, which was proximity. All students, no matter where they were on their options, got one-to-one support. We also provided 8 community hotspots for areas that were underserved for internet. 3 virtual facilitators. One is in the room with us, and they did a great job, and we couldn't have done it without them. And you guys approved the purchases for our enterprise Google Classroom, which gave us some extra tools for our teachers to facilitate that option too, especially. We had family technology support nights, Ms. Schaefer and both Amy and Nathan, and community feedback surveys. We did a couple of feedback surveys during the year, so we really did go and try to get that feedback from the community on what we were doing good and what we needed to work on. Dr. Knott, food distribution. Okay.
Last school year, we added 2.5 cooks. We did that summer delivery. We not only provided pickup of meals, but we went out to about 8 different community stops. We did weekly meals that accommodated students' instructional schedules, collaborated with REACH and their outreach program for families. And then we've purchased the new box truck and the refrigerated van. Special education, every student with an IEP was required to have a distance learning plan so that should we go on remote, their services would continue. We did not have to amend IEPs, no service minutes were reduced. Students came to school for face-to-face instruction. And in this coming school year, we're going to hire additional aides to address learning loss.
For recovery of learning loss, we're going to continue our partnership with New Schools. You all approved that a few meetings back. We're going to offer the after-school tutoring, but we're also going to have a social worker that will provide emotional support for those students that need that as well. This past last 9 weeks of school, the fourth 9 weeks, we had 62 students in grades K through 5 that participated. And we saw an improvement in spelling, sight word fluency, math back fluency, and the weekly reading test and math test scores.
One thing we talked about with them as well with new school is it's easier to get data at the secondary level than it is the elementary level when you look at the classes they take. And when you take transcripted classes, you can see that we had 6 through 12 students. We had 77 students attend. That's a pretty good number of students that came. And the number you need to look at is out of 77 students, anybody that was flunking one core subject, you can see that they brought that to a passing grade. And then on the other slide, you can see students who brought 2 core subjects up to a passing grade. So if we didn't do this new school approach and try, we would have had a lot of kids that would have had a lot of loss of class that they would not have gotten credit for. So it's better to try to get them caught up now. And even though we've had summer recovery plan going on, it's not as effective as this, because when you're in school and you're used to going to school, you go to school, you stay after school, you have people there who can help you. But when you do summer school, there's just too many variables with, I'd rather be outside right now, it's beautiful out. It's hard to want to be inside during summer school hours. Not to put down any summer school, but the time you get the recovery is during the school time in that 9-month period versus trying to recover in the summer. Summer should be more of a time for enhancing and making things more expansive like they did the 4 themes that you all had. That's supposed to be more fun and hands-on, where if I gotta go to school in the summer to get my language arts or my math caught up, studies just show it's just not as effective as when they're in school with their teachers who can really push them and help out as much as we can. But I think we did pretty well there in a 9-week period. We're gonna try it for all 4 9 weeks and see what happens with that data. We'll give you guys an update on that as that continues. You probably want to talk about this, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, we emphasized to the West Virginia Department of Education during our presentation that we found and made adjustments as the year went on that asynchronous and synchronous were not, did not have the same success rate. Option 1, which was in person, you had almost 18% that were failing at least one subject. Asynchronous, which is self-paced, not live, you had almost 34% failing at least one subject. Option 3, which was synchronous, live, in person 5 days a week, and just over 8%. So the numbers were pretty clear there, and we made adjustments as the year went on, and to help that option 2, and I think we were pretty successful. And the good thing about the synchronous option that we had is that certified teachers, we were looking to use that same system to provide certified teachers in alternative school, homebound, in-person classes with no certified teachers. For instance, electives that we may not have somebody that has the knowledge or the ability to teach specific electives that aren't offered at Summers County High School compared to other high schools in the area. And the live at least gives you some aspect of social emotional because you are actually seeing into someone's home versus the asynchronous option 2, which would have been West Virginia Virtual, which was self-paced and did not give that component to it.
So how do we address the learning loss? First, we talked about having additional aids and split grades. However, after more conversations, we decided that it's best to, instead of having aids and split grades, we would add teachers. So there will be no split grades in Summers County for this fall. We've had to post an additional 6 classroom teachers for this, but we estimate the cost will be approximately $1 million. 5 additional special ed aides. These will help support the at-risk students to address the learning loss for special ed students. And lastly, this is something that was on our review from the state. Instead of hiring long-term subs to make the jobs more attractive to hire itinerant teachers, we have a shortage of subs in Summers County. And we have teachers who are covering other classrooms, principals who are covering other classrooms. we need a teacher in those buildings to help with these, vacant jobs on a daily basis. So, we're proposing that we hire 3 itinerant teachers, and what this would be is these would be floating teachers, one at each of the elementary schools. That would allow for, if we don't have enough subs, that person will go in that classroom for that day. We're also gonna, continue with new school. We came before you all, I think it was for $120,000, but this is for a 2-year period, so that's $250,000. Virtual instruction, just giving our students additional avenues for, opportunities with education, approximately $400,000. And with professional development, we'd like to continue with Edwards, which I think you all have approved already, and Chris Consulting. Now, some of these numbers may look a little off, but this is all round 3 money. So we still have round 2 money, that some of these areas are coming out of round 2 money. So like, with professional development, some of Edwards for the next, and this is a 3-year plan. So some of Edwards and Chris will be coming out of, round 2 money. Some of this may just be only 1 year, which would be the last year, fiscal year 24, and that's why, these amounts are the way they are.
Are all these projected figures, you say, based on 3-year period?
Some of them are 3-year periods, because some of them are coming out of round 2 money. This is the amount that's only coming out of round 3 money.
But you're projecting the cost over 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And to finalize with our addressing learning loss is our after-school transportation. Summers County traditionally has not had, our athletics have had to pay for after-school trips, or clubs have had to pay for those after-school trips. We want to make sure that all of our athletics or after-school activities are going to have a bus. They're going to have a way to get there to help keep our students safe. Plus, with our after-school with New School or any other after-school programs, we would have that busing service for our students.
We don't want that to be an obstacle.
Right.
And so anytime we have a field trip or athletic event or going to the parks for our work program, we want our kids to have transportation. So you can still have fundraisers for your clubs or your athletics, but you can start putting that away for later. But right now, since we have federal dollars coming, we're gonna use that for paying our bus drivers and fuel costs, and obviously have to service those, and parts are always the costly part of it more than anything else. So we just wanted people to be aware that that will be taken care of now, and parents won't have to carpool anymore.
Mr. Warble spoke about bringing some funding. We are also going to use some of our federal funds with our Communities in Schools grant. Our site facilitators will work with our at-risk students. We're also going to use Title IV for our school resource officers, and they will be working at all of our schools. We'll have one at the high school facility and one that goes to all 3 elementary schools, and PBIS with Fidelity.
The school resource officers are not there to incarcerate. They're there to educate and talk about soft skills and be a mentor and a guide on the side. They're there to have one more adult, one more caring adult, to help influence kids in a positive way. Now, if something would arise, yeah, we got someone with a badge, but that's last resort. That's not what they're there for. They're not there to incarcerate. They're there to educate and be a support to those kids in the school system.
So this is just a summary of how we're using the ARC money to address the learning loss. And again, these numbers, this is what we tentatively have, but depending on what may happen, there could be a shift in these. But we're allocating at least $2.7 million to address learning loss in Summers County.
We are also going to continue using our some of our money to address learning loss by having a summer school. Just like we did this year, we're going to continue that. We're going to hire teachers, custodians, transportation staff, and supplies, and we're estimating a cost of $100,000.
So we're going to our communities that we work in, so we do have to have brick and mortar. And our facilities do need improvement in their space. So what we'd like to do is improve the use of our space. At Talcott, we'd like to renovate the gym. At Hinton area, we'd like to make the cafeteria not a gymnasium / cafeteria. We'd like the gym to be a gymnasium and add on and make a cafeteria and update the windows and the doors. And at Jumping Branch, we're looking at, still looking at updating electrical and HVAC and maybe giving them a multi-purpose room, but Jumping Branch is a little bit different because there's only so much real estate, I'll just put it that way. So we're looking at that. And then the middle school, you all know now, we've moved it to the high school, and the SBA will help fund that project as we move forward. If we do look at using some of this money at the high school for HVAC, that HVAC would have to be bid out separate from what the school building authority, because that's the rules that have just come down in the past couple of weeks from the federal government. Anytime you use the ESSERF money, it has to be bid out separately from any other projects that you do that are provided by the state or the county. We'll get into those weeds later, but that's just the latest that's come to our desk in what, the last 2 weeks, would you say? So as we move forward, go back one real quick. I know I jumped ahead, but one thing that we're trying to do is, those are 3 important things on bullet 2. If anybody can really take anything from this presentation, we got to make kids feel that there's a connection and that they need the routine, because we know that working from home is nice, but yet it isn't. You can think everybody's ADD when it comes to Zooming or Teams or seeing someone, and you don't know who's in that house in the background running around, and it's just too many distractions. Kids need to get up, get on the bus or walk to school, go through their routines, because routines help set them up for success. It's better for all of us. And then the last one is so true to be seen. And we're going to go out and try to do some wellness checks with at least the elementary students and maybe even secondary. But we need to get out and let the kids know we're ready to take you back to school full bore, and we're ready to go, and we want you to be with us. But those last 3 are what we're going to hit this year with our teachers: rigor, relevance, and engagement. If we can do those 3 really well, our discipline should go down and our scores should go up. That's the goal here as we move forward. Mr. Lester did a good job of bringing in some of the data that I was talking about Talcott. I'll give it to Mr. Lester since he does facilities, and he also, I'm going to brag for him, he does such a great job of cutting stuff from the sky view and putting it into a slide, and then he also highlights things so it's easier for people to see. So I'll give this to Mr. Lester.
We wanted the State Department to know, we can talk about a gym at Talcott, and we all know what that is, but they can't visualize that. And that's primarily what we wanted to stress to them, is we're not looking at building new grand facilities that we will not have the money to maintain. We're looking at trying to take the efficiencies of the structures we already have and provide the services to the students. For instance, the multi-purpose room at Talcott Elementary, it is its auditorium, it's also its gym, and when you're trying to do social distancing and when you're trying to have, for instance, recess when it's raining, there's a lot of reasons why having a fully functioning gym would better serve the community and that campus. We can put money into updating the doors, windows, and HVAC. It allows for additional learning space because that multi-purpose room can then be used differently. Estimated cost, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.2 million.
If you guys look at the bottom left there, you see how Mr. Lester made a blue outline. It looks like a little L shape. That addition has been removed. Delegate Cooper helped with Governor Justice to get us $10,000. And that $10,000 was used to remove that part of the building. We did that within the $10,000, when we got quotes for that, and, that has already been removed, so that's the good news. The bad news is, we still have a facility that needs to be updated, and it's gonna be a process to get to that point. But having said that, you know, we're working on it.
Hinton Area Elementary, it's another situation where we're trying to take advantage of the efficiencies of the structures we already have instead of building new structures. There's a large square footage with the board office we currently house. We're moving to our new address at 418 Temple Street, according to the 911. So that will be the new board address in the near future, but the building that's currently sitting there, we've had the fire marshal in for a preliminary look around. We can do this really cost effectively. In addition to that, the multi-purpose room, which is not only a auditorium, gymnasium, it's also the cafeteria for Hinton area, and getting them a separate eating area that will not only help with any future pandemic issues, but it also more effectively uses that space as a multi-purpose room or auditorium, and giving them a separate place to eat that's also on that campus ground.
So in summary, to address how we're gonna spend art money for the learning environment, we're looking at a total of $2.4 million in building projects. And again, those numbers can change a little bit with the location, but we have at least 2.4 that will be set aside for nothing but we're addressing the learning environment for our students. The next section of the art money is that we have LEA discretion of how we're gonna use these funds. We're looking at using instructional supplies. This will take care of spring order supplies, classroom supplies, instructional supplemental materials that we may need, for a total of $500,000. Personnel, we're looking at moving these funds. This basically, we would be moving the money from county funded positions to art funded positions while we have this money, which will open up county funds for us to use for other projects. That'll be approximately $950,000. We're looking at for 1 year, this current school year, of taking our maintenance and custodial custodians and paying for those areas out of this art funding. That will include our salaries and supplies, which will give us a little over $600,000. Also technology, for that $400,000 is for a 2-year period to continue our students having one-on-one computers.
Wait, do we need to call him back? Okay. Do you want to pause just for a second while we try to get Greg back on line?
You need his phone number?
I got it.
Oh.
You can see it.
All right, Mr. Brogan, put you on hold. Did we lose Greg, or did we lost Greg? Right. Okay.
Get cold.
1678.
Having the busing will be nice.
Mr. Angel?
I'm back, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna merge you back.
Okay.
All right, everybody should be back.
Yep, I'm here, thank you.
Okay, so to round out discretionary funds, we have 2 years of technology, which would be approximately $400,000. So for LEA discretion, in summary, this is, we have approximately $2.5 million. And whenever we look at this money, this is opening up funds that the county typically pays for. So this would open up county funds that allow us to essentially have more discretion with what we do with our county projects. So again, this is just instructional supplies, financial salaries, technology, 2 years of the salary for the technology director, transportation, child nutrition, salaries, custodians, maintenance, and technology.
This kind of breaks it down so people can see it after all these presentations, because some people are bean counters and they just like to see that. Okay, here's where our money's gonna go. The majority of our money, 75% of it is going towards students. And that's through the adults that teach them or help care for them or take them to and from. So we are trying to use the majority of the money towards student learning loss. Now, the rest of it, we're trying to update our facilities. The indirect cost, you want to speak a little bit to that so people understand what that means as they see the word indirect cost out there? Because I want people who look at this understand, what does that mean about $300,000 in indirect costs?
Okay.
What are you talking about? Can you answer that?
When you look at the indirect cost, we, each year we have an indirect cost rate, and there's a restrictive and a non-restrictive rate that we are eligible to charge to certain federal grants. And with whatever our rate is, and I think with this one it's 3.01, maybe a little bit higher than that, but we are eligible to take that percentage of whatever our grant award is and take for county funding. So if we utilize our indirect costs, we will have at least $278,000 that will come to the county. That's our cost of receiving this grant. So the work that our directors do, Mr. Wardle does, anything I do with accounting, that basically reimburses our salaries for receiving this grant award.
Can that money be eventually directed into the maintenance fund that we are trying to develop so that we have ongoing?
It's our
emergency
discretion.
funds? Okay. So we-
Basically, when you see LEA discretion, that's very much a specific term that can be used for us at our discretion. But when you see indirect cost, it's saying that they understand, the federal government understands, there's work that goes into getting this money. So they're saying you can use that extra bit and charge around that 3 to 4% to be conservative, and that's what we can use that money for county purposes. So yes, you could use it for building projects, you could use it to buy a bus, you could use it to pay for school supplies, technology, anything that you think it would be worthwhile to use. So I would say that money should be used probably more towards rainy day fund or for facilities. But we'll get to that as we move forward, because we're saving a lot of money by using salaries through the federal government. But we wanted them to know the whole time that this is what we do. This is the middle school kids, because they're usually better at taking pictures and being goofy, because why? They can. So that's our kids pre-pandemic. We would like to get back to that look in our schools where there's school spirit, kids are happy to be there and they're smiling. There's a couple of them in there that are looking tough, but that's what you do when you're in middle school. But if you guys have any questions, we'll be glad to take them now. If you think of some later, that's fine too. But we will have this out for public comment. And this presentation will be on the website for people to look at starting tomorrow, and as we want comment and feedback. But people have to understand, there's no increase of people getting paid more. When we say salaries, it's going towards the salary that they deserve. It's just having the federal government pay for it, and then we can save county money for that salary. I don't want people to think people are getting raises. Nobody's getting a raise. If anything, we've used that money to get more people. For example, split classrooms. Now you have 2 teachers. The problem that we're gonna have is, can we hire those people? You can post all day long, but I think last year we didn't fill about 10 positions all school year. Having said that, we thought we'd be proactive and talk to some universities. Concord has sent us 6 people this summer. They're interested in working here in Summers County. We do have an attrition rate where people retire or go to a county where they live closer. that has happened to us, so we gotta fill those positions as they become open, so, we are trying to make things better in this county as we move forward. Any questions, Mr. Duncan? We'll take them.
Any members have any questions or comments they'd like to address to the central office? Nobody but me, huh? Okay, everybody knows I was gonna have something.
You only get one.
No, I got two.
Oh.
Okay, I'll use them both.
Okay.
If there's anything good that came out of COVID, we have replaced the concept or the idea that teachers in classrooms are replaceable by computers. There is no substitute for a well-organized, active classroom with an engaged teacher who is engaging with their students in teaching standards. There's none. And so that should put that thought away for so many people who have been talking about, well, we really don't need teachers in schools, we can just learn online. No, we can't. And I think if anything good came out of COVID, that was one. The other aspect there within the presentation was the math and English language arts scores. I guess we all would have suspected them to be that. We're sorry that they are, but we would have expected it. Which is going to send out a clear message from the board to everybody, and I know in talking with you, Mr. Warble, and in conjunction with your staff, and I just want everybody to know this, the superintendent and his staff, and they're bringing principals and teachers on board, is that we're, if you use a coaching analogy, we're behind. And we're behind if we want to win this game of educating students, which is what our prime directive is, then we have got to take this seriously this year. Not that we haven't in the past, but it's got to be very serious. We've got to drill down into it, and we got to improve this. It's just that simple. If we not, and we don't put our best foot forward there, none of us are getting our jobs done. Now, I know there's a whole myriad of reasons why we have lower performance on scores. I know there are. And we can't fix them all, and we're never going to get to 100%. But we've got to make reasonable improvement, and we've had that discussion, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the board members, I'm saying it for the benefit of the public who will listen to this. We take this serious, and we're going to, the superintendent has assured me, we're going to hit the ground running on this come August.
We have to.
That's all my comments on that. Okay, so having said that, let's move on. Mr. Warble, is that everything on your presentation?
Yeah, not to give you a hard time, but you didn't give a question, those were statements then? You said you had 2 questions, I didn't know if you had any.
I had 2 points to make.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. You know, I'm glad, look, it's really good I have him fact checking me, keeping me online here, and I appreciate that, Mr. Warble. I
Okay.
won't hold that against you at all.
Okay, I appreciate
Okay.
that. No, we don't have any other presentations.
Okay. Item 6, approval of minutes. We have June 24th, 21 board minutes regular meeting, June 30th, 2021 board minutes for a special meeting. The chair would entertain a motion on accepting those minutes as presented to us by the superintendent.
I make a motion that we do these separately.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's take June 24th, 2021 board minutes regular meeting. Chair would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Make the
Or-
motion.
I'll make a motion.
Or do we have any, do you have a question or concern on Ms. Farley? No. Okay, we have a motion on the floor of Mr. McBride, seconded by, was that Mr.
Angel?
Mr. Angel? That this board approve the minutes for June 24th, 2021 board minutes of regular meeting as presented by the superintendent. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did I have 2 ayes on there? Mr. Brogan? Mr. Brogan, are you with us?
Aye.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So we
Yes,
have
aye.
4 votes in the affirmative. Any,
Yes, sir, I'm here.
I got you. Any opposed? Any abstaining?
I abstain.
Vice President Farley abstains. We have 4 votes in the affirmative to approve June 24th regular meeting minutes. That brings us to item June 30th, 2021 board minutes of a special meeting.
I make a motion we approve the minutes for June 30th, 2021 meeting as presented.
Chair seconds that. There's a motion on the floor of Vice President Farley, seconded by the chair, that this board approve June 30th, 2021 board minutes for the special meeting. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Let the minutes reflect by 5 votes in the affirmative that we approve June 30th special
Aye.
meeting minutes. Okay. Student success stories.
We did the student success / instructional initiative with the summer school
Very good.
program.
Community volunteerism.
And I don't have any at this time. And no bills.
I can tell you there's been community volunteerism, some of them are employees, but there's been community volunteerism down at the athletic facilities, the outside of the football, high school, and middle school dressing rooms are being painted, as well as the inside. And so there's a lot of work going on down there to make this a more aesthetically pleasing place for people. Item 10, approval of bills. We have no bills to approve tonight. Isn't that amazing? We're making all kinds of money this 2 weeks. No bills to pay out of. Okay, very good. We'd like to see more. We have item 11, approved transfers and supplements. Members, if you look into your packets, you'll see a section on transfers and supplements. Superintendent Warble, would you or your CSBO like to address any of those in any way? If not,
So
go ahead.
these are the last 4 adjustments that I had after the meeting on June 30th. This was just to clean up the accounts to make sure everything was in balance.
Superintendent Warble, you concur with all that?
Yep, so much that my signature's on the paper.
Very good. Okay. The chair moves this board approve the transfers and supplements as presented to us by the CSBO and the superintendent. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, second by Mr. McBride, that this board approve the transfers and supplements as presented to us by the superintendent and CSBO. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Was that 2 and 1 there?
Aye.
There you go.
5 votes in affirmative, Mr. Warble. We have approved the transfers and supplements as presented to us. I see we have no old business items, which brings us to item 13, new business. Approved purchases over 20,000. We don't have any, do we? Okay, very good. Approved policies to continue on review as new policies to be adopted for our Summers County Schools policy manual. These have been posted. I see no reason reading these. We're voting to continue to keep them on review. The public has seen them. We've been over them, and we've announced them before. So the chair would entertain a motion on 13B, approved policies to continue on review as new policies to be adopted.
I make a
I'll make a
motion.
motion that we leave the policies under 13B on review as new policies to be adopted.
I'll second that.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, second by Vice President Farley. This
I think that was
board,
Greg.
was it Greg? I apologize.
No worries.
Okay, all right. Don't hold that against me. Sorry, Mr. Brogan. Under 13B, we have a motion by Mr. Angel, second by Vice President Farley, to approve the policy to continue on review as new policies to be adopted. That's 13B, and the Roman numeral in the text of each item has been on review for a while, and we've discussed them. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
5 votes in the affirmative, Mr. Warble. 13B has been approved to remain, all items remain on review. That brings us now to item 13C, approved policies to be adopted. And these 2 policies to be approved to be adopted are items Roman numeral 4- Roman numeral 7-A-11, student use of cell phones and electronic signaling devices in school, excuse me. We had discussion on this before. These have been out on review. There were some changes or addendums added to them. Can someone go over those for us?
Can you be able to pull those up at all on the website so we can see the changes that were made? If you can't, I don't know if you're magic. Basically what we did working with Trey Marone today is it's just wordsmithing everything that we talked about last board meeting The biggest one that people had comments on were more the cell phones not used by students, but by our employees, and we have heard those. And basically, we're not saying that employees can't have cell phones or use them. It's just anytime you're working with students in your classroom, I know some people use videotaping, a timer, dojo, the list goes on and on. If that's being used in the classroom, that's appropriate. Nobody's saying you can't use that. It's where if you're texting and you're corresponding with people outside the school environment that has nothing to do with your current job, it's like bus drivers. If a bus driver's driving, their cell phone is not supposed to be used. That is a fireable offense, and I don't want to get to that. That's a whole nother ballgame. But I know driving's different than being in a classroom, but at the same time, you have to take it serious that you are focused on the kids at hand. And yes, you can use your cell phone to time, dojo, videotape, record. That makes sense. It's just if you're on your phone aimlessly going through social media or texting a bunch of people that have nothing to do with your job, then that can be an issue. But that's for the principal to work with the staff. So that is the intention of the policy. Is there anybody from the central office? Did I pretty much hit all the marks there? I don't know if I've missed anything, but that was the concern from the staff was, can I use my phone for a timer, dojo, recording, those kinds of things? That's not an issue for us. That is not an issue.
That is also, speaking for the board, because we had a lengthy discussion on this, that is also not a problem for the board.
Yeah.
I think you addressed the issues, and I think they've been reiterated, and there's been some changes in the policy, what the board had issued concerns about.
Yeah, you can see this right here. Staff may use it. However, use of such devices by staff not to interfere with, this is huge, instruction, safety, or work of individual that's been hired. That's pretty cut and dry there. But if you're using your cell phone to help out with the classroom, I don't have a problem with that. That's not an issue. The intent is to not interrupt the education or the safety of children.
And there was another reason for allowing staff to have their cell phones with them. We talked about this at the meeting. I'd like to reiterate that. Mr. Lester, we talked about that app that would allow
Oh, for walkie-talkies?
personnel cell phones to become walkie-talkies. In the event we had a school-wide emergency, then all staff and people would be able to communicate with the central office or get communications from them by their cell phones, becoming walkie-talkies. So that is something on the board of where you plan to do. Is that correct? Mr. Lester?
I was reading what was posted under the out for the comment, and that is not the updated version.
It's not.
It is not, because I think specifically, if and I may be wrong, but I wouldn't say this unless I was reasonably sure. We did add provisions for the faculty and staff to be able to connect to our Wi-Fi with some provisions that state they have to identify the device on the network and they can be revoked from using our Wi-Fi network. So that stuff's not in there, but Trey did send a version with that in there. So I'm saying the public comments were listened to and it was changed. It's just the version that is currently that we received from Trey, I'm not sure got put on the web.
Okay, so should the most updated version be posted before it is voted on? This is a question.
Well, what you could do is, you could just say that instead of saying you approve the policies to be adopted, you can just put these back out for comment still, if that's what you all would feel more comfortable with. There's no hurry into this right now.
I will make 2 points here. One, by law, and it may seem kind of foolish not to do it, by law, we do not have to put policies out for review. By law, we do not. That's as per Howard Super Bowl's rights. However, we have been putting all these new policies out for review, and we probably want to remain consistent in what we've been doing with these. So if that updated verbiage has not been out there on review for the public, then it would be my suggestion, and it's no problem, this causes no problem for anybody anywhere, then it might just be that we don't entertain a motion on any of these two policies, and we allow you to post them, and we'll take them up at the next regular meeting. Is that fair? Does that satisfy everybody, all the board members? 'Cause this is
Yes,
under our review.
I would feel more comfortable with that approach.
Okay?
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable having read it myself before I
So
vote on it.
on this item, you don't have to do anything.
I would
We won't take any
absolutely,
action on it.
No action, I'll write that down, no
So-
action taken.
And we will not even address the second one, because that'd be the same situation on it, Mr. Lester. So for item 13C, I would do this. I would move that the superintendent,
So if you take no action, we can
well,
just update it.
you'll make sure then you have it on the agenda for the regular meeting.
The regular meeting,
Regular meeting,
not a
not
special,
special,
yeah.
Okay, so
That
we
gives
will,
people an extra 2 weeks to look up the updated stuff that Mr.
Correct.
Morone can give us for the verbiage for you guys to look at.
and that
Okay.
works, everybody's happy with that. We're
Okay.
under no pressure or gun for that, and we're being consistent with what we have been doing.
Okay.
That brings us to item 14, personnel items. And we have here a resignation, Vicki Bennett, CNA instructor. We have employment professional personnel. We struck 2 items, and we have a Jessica Collins, mutual reassignment to 3rd grade jumping branch.
Can I explain that real quick?
Yes, please.
Okay, the reason why Jessica Collins did a mutual reassignment is she was gonna teach 2nd, 3rd. Yes, had to think, I did wanna, I thought 3rd, 4th for a minute. 2nd, 3rd. What we're doing is using that money that we talked about in the slide to give her choice of either 2nd or 3rd. She said, I would like 3rd. So we have posted 2nd grade position now. So we are gonna hire a teacher for that split. Does that make sense? I just want everybody to be aware of that. That's what that mutual reassignment's all about.
And for anybody with any questions, this is a move to improve and have more one-on-one instruction to better the educational opportunity of our students, plus remove some of the tremendous overworked load on teachers for having to plan 2 classrooms in one classroom, 2 grade levels in one classroom. So that was Jessica Collins. We have then employment substitute service personnel, and we have Donna Testerman, secretary cook, that's substitute. We have employment of coaches, Kelsey Lively, head volleyball coach, and as her assistant, Megan Metter. And those salaries will be determined. We have a cap on it of $28.50, and the division of that between the head coach and the assistant coach will be determined by the head coach, subject to whatever policies we have. So, having said that, the chair would entertain a motion regarding 14 personnel items.
I make a motion, we approve the superintendent's recommendations.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor by Vice President Farley, seconded by Mr. McBride, that this board approve under 14 personnel items the recommendations of the superintendent for hire, resignation, and also with the fact being known, this has been properly posted as an agenda item with these names. So is there any discussion other than mine? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Alright. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Did you vote aye, Mr. Brogan?
I had a question.
Oh,
I had a question.
Okay,
Can you hear me? I have a question.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Is he muted and he's listening to the
Just
YouTube?
under volleyball coach, it shows that Kelsey's getting the entire amount. Is that for sure adjustable?
that is being very consistent for years and years. The head coach has typically determined the amount that the head coach takes and what they pay their assistants. Ms. Metter, as I understand it, is the choice of Ms. Lively to be the assistant. And so that would be worked out by Ms. Lively in paying Megan Metter. Did that answer your question?
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with all that. It just looks like she's getting the whole amount, but I mean, as long as it's gonna be able to be adjusted at a later time, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll give you that. We're just waiting on,
We
we're
just
waiting
hired
on
all the
that.
football coaches and it gave each one salary.
Well, that's because he knew who he had and what they were doing. We haven't received any information. We're still waiting on her to tell us what that division is gonna be.
Okay, so we had 4 votes in the
Okay,
affirmative.
that's
Was your,
good, thank you.
I'm sorry?
I say that's good.
Okay, so we had 4 votes in the affirmative. Do we have a yes vote from you, Mr. Brogan, on this? Item 14?
Yes,
Opposed, abstaining, we have 5 already, so Superintendent Ward, we have 5 votes in the affirmative to approve the personnel items you recommended to us. That brings us to item 15, Superintendent's report.
My report and discussion of next agenda are one and the same because I've done a presentation with my staff. I would like for you guys to look at having a special board meeting next Thursday. If we could do that at 10, the rationale of a special board meeting is, I got a lot of jobs that need to fill. And right now, I would like to catch as many people as I can right away. And we have quite a few Concord students, I was gonna call them kids, but young adults that are interested in positions. And I would like to catch people now and get them under contract and not wait any longer. So I would like to have a special board meeting. The reason why Thursday is that gives us our 5 days of posting, full 5 days. Does that make sense?
Members, let me say this. I'm going to put the call out for this special meeting. I think it's well justified, purely for the fact of the reasoning that Mr. Warble just gave. And so you can join by phone. And so the proposal is that that I call a special meeting for 10 a.m. next Thursday, July the 15th. Do I have any objections to that call?
Would we be able, could we schedule that for 10:30 by any chance?
Well, sure.
Yeah, that'd be no
Is there a
problem.
reason why I need,
That-
okay, if we
that'd
could
be
back it
fine.
up a half an hour, or a half an hour,
Well,
or we're moving forward a half an hour, I could do it either way.
Would 10:30 or 11 work better for you?
On the half hour works better for me than on the hour,
Okay.
just because of
West Virginia.
some other calls, but, yeah.
Okay.
But if we could do 10:30 or 11:30 would work better than 10 or 11.
The chair puts out a call for a special meeting for Thursday, July the 15th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. for the purpose of hiring much needed personnel before some other county gets them. I want to add a comment here, and I want this for everybody to hear and anybody who's listening in. Many people outside of the school system are not aware. Summers County has become a training ground for teachers and personnel for our surrounding counties. The 5 contiguous counties, Raleigh, Mercer, Greenbrier, Fayette, and Monroe, they are currently offering incentives to their employees in the form of eye and dental and increased supplements above and beyond what the state pays. And we are having a flood of our teachers go to those counties. Can't blame them. Lots of them live closer there or they live there. We are losing personnel, and if we hope to improve our school system, we're going to have to find some way to retain personnel that we train and keep them on board and get some longevity of service from our personnel. Or otherwise, we're going to be spinning our wheels with professional development always, and our kids are going to suffer for this. That's all I want to say about that at this time. Superintendent Ward, any more presentation?
No.
Okay.
I think it's time for Ms. Farley to talk.
Yeah, because we have the agenda, and we'll just, anybody that wants to ask for an agenda item on the special meeting, you may do so. Contact Superintendent Warble, and I will as well. Ms. Farley, go on.
Okay, I make a motion, we adjourn. The